Wow, that's crazy unpleasant. My suggestion to you, suck it up and wait. Just be patient, right? It's not pleasant. I've been there. I've seen how one of my houses goes from 190 to 84, 500 in 2008, more of them, but one that I clearly remember. It's not pleasant, but it stays rented. It stays occupied. You kind of weather the storm. Why, if you don't panic and sell, you're not executing a loss, right? Weather the storm, be patient, and it's easier to weather the storm when it's quality.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Our guest today is returning after 4 years. It's incredible to think back about the shows that long ago. And he was guest number WS 187, and that was in April of 2019. Well, a lot has changed since then for him and in real estate, for us also, no doubt by then. But our guest today, Dani Beit-Or. He's 18 years of experience in investing in real estate. He uses knowledge and experience to secure financial growth for beginners to experienced investors. And since 2004, Dani has worked with many hundreds of investors on close to 5,000 transactions. Wow. And helping them to build strong real estate property portfolios by investing in various U.S. metros. He helps both beginners and experienced investors by customizing each strategy based on experience, age, goals, knowledge, and financial abilities. And we're going to hear Dani's thoughts on the current market and what, he talked about getting back to normal times. I said, well, what is that? What are normal times? He just elaborates on that and talks about the patterns of behaviors of people, right? Or things that, patterns that are happening during uncertain times or times of uncertainty, right? And so we can help recognize them, as many veteran or more experienced investors can, if they've been through many cycles, they see things, right? They see it from times before. And Dani is talking about that, even talking about the assets that you need to be looking at so you can weather that storm, right? Which we all need to be thinking about for sure. Because we are also buyers right now. If we find something that works, it's not been easy, but we are still looking, and we are buyers if we find something that makes sense right now. And even some of the things he mentioned apply to us as well, for sure. So I know you're going to learn a lot from Dani today. Dani, welcome back to the show. It's been a while. It's incredible. We were laughing a little bit about how long ago that's been that you were a guest before, but grateful to have you back. I'm looking forward to the listeners and myself hearing what's happened in the last few years in your business and Simply Do It, right.com, and what's the latest. So why don't you update us on what's happening? And I want to dive in and get your opinion too on what's happening during these uncertain times and some strategies and things you found most effective to be successful in the current market. But give us an update. What's happening with you?
So first of all, thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Always a pleasure. And share some experience. It has been about, I don't know, maybe almost 4 years, I think, something like that. Crazy 4 years, at least for me, crazy. We are in March of 2023. Interesting times financially. What I'm seeing mainly is, first of all, there's part of me saying, thank God we are maybe in a correction, maybe going to some a little bit more relaxed, more normal times of real estate. Hopefully, maybe we still have to do some adjustment before we go to to the boring period of real estate. It's been really hectic, as everybody knows, before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, even for a bit. So now maybe we're going back to some sort of a little bit more normal times. What I've seen, what I like about these times, what we're going through right now, is I find it very exciting to be a buyer. A lot of people are sitting on the sideline, hesitating, not sure about what doing. And you know what? This is excellent. When there's a lot of hesitation in the marketplace, this is a very good time to be somewhat bullish about buying. And when I'm saying buying, I'm not saying just buy anything. Obviously, just be more cautious, more maybe lower offers, more smarter investor, exploit or use the time, the feel that it's out there, the public atmosphere, let's call it, what people are expecting in your favor. So that means, I've been doing it for just about 20 years, actually 21 years as an investor. And that gave me privilege. 20 years gives you privilege to see patterns of behavior during certain times. But sometimes you need to see that pattern of behavior more than once to really see that something is going on. So I've seen people in times of uncertainty, and I've noticed people are they're resulting to hunkering down, waiting on the sideline. Perfect. For me, Perfect. Step aside, average person, let the pros come in and use that opportunity. I'm saying that as I definitely see it from the people, my clients. A lot of the beginners are also taking the same approach and kind of sitting down on the sideline watching. And the veterans, the experienced one, are saying, hey, I'm sensing there's an opportunity here. Let's dive in. With that said, it's kind of interesting to see that there's still multiple offers. So we're seeing there's not a week that goes by that we lose an offer or two or three for multiple bids. And when I say multiple bids today, it's no longer 10, it's 3 or 4, but still multiple bids on good properties. If they're priced well, look well, inventory also went down. So that makes it a little bit more competitive. So buyers were number, like there's supply and demand have both reduced. So that means if you're a buyer right now, you still may find yourself in a competitive marketplace. So maybe less crazy, but still.
Awesome. Wow. So many things I want to talk about or ask you about. You mentioned right away, maybe going back to some normal times. Maybe you could elaborate, like what is normal, or maybe there's a new normal, but what would you say normal is and when is that normal?
Yeah. So first of all, normal for me means even before COVID, we got the marketplace for the most part was here's a property, a seller will put a property in the market and within a day or two or three, there were multiple offers, right? It was just crazy. That's crazy. So it's very hard to operate in that situation as a buyer. Obviously, very good for the seller, very strong, extremely strong for seller's market. You have multiple offers, bidding war, increasing, people offer higher than asking, significantly higher. Now things are calming down, and between crazy times, let's say valleys and peaks, that's the normal period. What happens in the normal period? You don't necessarily see so many bidding wars, like I mentioned a minute ago, but a person puts their house on the market and it takes 30, 45 days, maybe 60 days to sell it. That's normal to a certain extent. Again, if the condition of the property of the house is okay, if the pricing is right, if they're always going to be extreme, right? Extreme situations here and there, but just the majority of those properties, that for me is what I call normal, right? The problem is, I think that we have trained our seller's agent in the past 10 years or less, or close to 10 years. We spoil them because it's almost like, what did you need as a seller's agent in the past 8 years or so, or I don't know, 7, 8 years? A license. You put it on the MLS and it sells. I'm so good. I'm amazing. I sold 50 houses last year because I put them on the market on the MLS and it got sold. That's no longer the place. Sellers agents are now learning to work a little bit harder for their commission, as they should. Sellers are starting to get to the point that you don't put the house on Friday and get multiple offers by the end of the weekend. And that's good. That's healthy. That means, in my opinion, as it should be, and gives people opportunity to really operate in this. This is obviously, real estate is not a deal. I'm talking about homeowners now. This is probably the biggest transaction of their lives. Maybe they've done 2 of those throughout their lifetime. I like calm water and not crazy water. We all do, probably.
Yeah, that's some good, I don't know, just things to notice or recognize as you talk about normal, right? What is normal? But you also mentioned like using this market in your favor, especially as a veteran, just as a real estate investor. What does that look like? I guess help us. I actually also mentioned patterns of behavior, right? You've seen these by being through a couple cycles. I guess help all of us that have maybe less experience, right? To be able to see some of those patterns that you're seeing and then what you're doing as a veteran investor when you're seeing these things.
Right. So first of all, it really depends on your position. You're a buyer, seller, investor, homeowner, flipper. But let's just touch on not all of them, but few of them. So first of all, I used to do a lot of flips, residential flips in my career. I don't do that anymore since 2018 or so for a variety of reasons. But around that time, when I also stopped flipping houses, I told the community, when I had an opportunity to talk about it, I would say to people, listen, you've been doing very well in the past few years because you enjoy the backwind. So if you've done a flip and you made a mistake or cost you not 30,000, but 50,000, so you're 20 or 10 or whatever extra than planned, the strong backwind of appreciation is the pain, right? So you didn't earn 20,000, you only earn on the flip 10,000, nobody's mad, right? I think throughout the COVID, I started telling people, listen, the backwind will end. It will end eventually. So that means when there's no backwind of appreciation, the mistake of 10 or 20,000 or whatever percentage higher than you planned, you're going to face it. You're going to get to a break even and loss, right? So first of all, if you're a flipper, a lot of flippers are intimidated because of that. I would say rightfully so. So we're seeing a lot of people scaling down from flips. You know what? That actually means an opportunity for people who know what they're doing to step in and find that flipping opportunity. For our investors that we are mainly focused on long-term rentals, we look at a property, we're trying to target we're trying to target houses that are sitting a little bit longer. I'm always telling my clients, listen, low balls are still not working. They're just not working because if it's a good piece of property in a good community and it's priced well, we may have a competition. So let's just run the numbers and see how they work for you. And then what I'm teaching my clients, I say, listen, run the numbers through. We have an Excel that we analyze every rental. Run the numbers as if we're buying it. And then when you're done and about to make a decision, do one more step. Go to the Excel and change the interest rate from 6.5, whatever day you are in, put 5. But just put 5 or 5.5%. And now that you've completely analyzed it, just one parameter, just one thing is their interest rate. And then look at the property and see what you're seeing. Because we are seeing very tight cash flow at 6.5-ish, depending on the day, depending on the program. And we may not be intrigued to buy that house with a low cash flow, very low cash flow. But when we go and put 5.5 or 5.5, all of a sudden the house looks attractive. And the reason I tell it to my clients, I say, I don't know when the interest rate will go down. And if, historically speaking, again, going back to the experience, we've seen that interest rates do not tend to stay at 7% or 6% over a long period of time. Do not expect the 4%, right? That's also extreme to the other end, right? I'm talking about investor interest rate. But if you're assuming 5.5, I think that's reasonable to assume, and that's the MO we are using, that in the next 1 to 3 years, we will get there. So we may have few years of tight cash flow, but probably in 3 years, we'll go down to 5.5 and 5. And we only need that 1% in less, 1.5% less in interest rate to see how the properties are cash flowing quite nicely, right? So if you do that kind of trick, it's kind of mind trick, but it's analysis, and you don't focus on, oh, it's 7% or 6.5. I can't do anything. I'm paralyzed. No, chill, relax, accept the problem, integrate it into your plan, and just no guarantees that most likely you will be able to refinance and then improve your cash flow position. I'm talking about equity is another aspect of it, but at least cash flow wise, which we're all as investors, very focused on.
Yeah. Any other ways, Danny, to see or recommend just to mitigate risk, right, in today's environment?
Are you asking how to mitigate the risk?
Yeah. Just any suggestions on mitigating the risk, when people are fearful right now?
So for me, it's always been very simple. If you have to follow 2 simple guidelines, that's just the way I look at it. Quality and long-term, right? If you buy quality property in a good neighborhood, in a growing market, you will probably continue to enjoy a demand for that piece of property from future buyers and future renters. So that will benefit you if you buy quality. Also, quality property or quality area tend to appreciate. When I say appreciate, I'm not talking about the inflation crazy of the past few years. That's crazy. 3-4% appreciation on average over time is very common to see in our country. Again, over time, over 10 years, 5 years. So if you buy quality, hold it long term, you will very likely increasing your chances for minimal appreciation, at least both rents and value. And also by doing, again, quality and over 10, you're hedging against the downturn, meaning you're already in a place that has chances to appreciate. And historically speaking, we see probably every 10 years, on average, some sort of a downturn, right? The down cycle. Maybe like now, we still don't even know if we're necessarily in a down cycle, and we're already 7 or 8 months in. We started slowing down in July of 2022, right? No crash yet, definitely a correction, right? No doubt about it, but we're not crashing just yet. And usually crashes last just about 7 to 8 months or 9 months, and we're not even crashing. So if you buy, I'm assuming, my assumption, again, someone who is a graduate or a survivor of the 2008 crash, my assumption in the next 10 years, there's going to be a down cycle. It's not if, it's not when it will happen. There will be. I'm embracing it. I'm saying I'm planning for it. I've been planning for a downturn for the past, since 2009, basically. So I'm saying it's coming. How do I hedge? I do multiple decisions But the main, if I really kind of refine quality long term, maybe I start buying here, my house goes up, then it goes a little bit down, up and down, up and down, and then there's a like a forward or an upward trajectory over time. So I may end up buying now at $250,000 or $300,000, and it drops from 300 to 250. Wow, that's crazy unpleasant. My suggestion to you, suck it up and wait. Just be patient, right? It's not pleasant. I've been there. I've seen how one of my houses goes from 190 to 84,500 in 2008, more of them, but one that I clearly remember. It's not pleasant, but it stays rented. It stays occupied. You kind of weather the storm. Why, if you don't panic and sell, you're not executing a loss, right? Weather the storm, be patient, and it's easier to weather the storm when it's quality. And from the get-go, you're going long-term. And real estate, if it loves one thing, it's time, especially leverage real estate. Give it time. It will probably do very well for you. Just be patient. Patient.
I love the have patience, right? That's hard for most of us.
Very hard.
Least,
Very hard.
You mentioned ensure we can weather the storm. You're hedging against a downturn, right? I ask many guests with experience like yourself, like, how do we do that? How do we ensure we're prepared for a downturn? You talked and you mentioned a couple of things like buying something that's quality, right? And planning long-term from the beginning. I love that. Anything else you would add there? As far as some of that happens and people can't survive because they don't have the cash, right? Or they can't. That's one thing. Anything else you would add to say, you know what? I buy this property, values go down drastically 6 months later. How do you know you can weather that storm? Anything else you would add there to help the listener?
So it all comes down to your characteristics and comfort level as an investor. There's people who see real estate like myself. That's my life, right? I'm in and out of real estate all the time, owning, investing, working with investors. I do it day in, day out. When I have to deal with the real estate related management issues, that's just Monday afternoon for me. It's nothing special. So some people who are working at the real estate, even full-time or part-time, and this is really their job, you do whatever works for you. I don't need to tell you probably what you need to do. You're flipper, you're local investor, remote investor. But when I'm talking about the people who are investors or people who invest while they're keeping their job, right? While they have a full-time job, they understand the value of turning on this slow engine, right? Growth engine called real estate, trying to do it in the background of your life, right? Not being all over it. Some call it passive investing. I hope people are listening and they know I don't think there's such thing as a passive investing at all. It's maybe a little bit more passive or a little bit less passive, right? But there's no 100% passive, or I don't want to say 100. When you do syndication, it's maybe as close to passive as you can be. I think so. So there is that almost 100% passive. But if you're owning directly, then you need to understand it's not going to be passive. And then the question is how involved or how intense you want it in your life. If you're looking to keep your lifestyle with your job, with family, and have the real estate be integrated to that lifestyle, then choose the real estate that fits to that, right? Either do a syndication, which is obviously passive or almost passive for you, or buy the type of real estate that will require less of your involvement or less, I call it noise in the system, right? Buy a rundown property, old, in a not so good part of town. That will probably generate issues with tenants, with evictions, with things breaking. Buy a nice piece of property in the better side of town with the tenants that are, both of them maybe work and have good income. The property is not 100 years old and maybe just 30 or 40 or 20, whatever. You are positioning yourself to less issues, to less problems to begin with. Really finding that what fits into your lifestyle more than if this one is giving you $100 more in cash flow, $200 more or less. People are so valuing the cash flow and ROI as if there's black and white. Nobody's doing an ROI, an emotional return on investment, right? When you have a property that you keep having issues and you always blame the property manager, you never go back to yourself and say, did I make wrong decisions about buying this property, the age, the location? I'm like, did I position it to full success or did I position it for a minimal success? I don't want to say failure.
That's such a good point. Like, how do you measure the brain damage, right? That's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yes, the first project properties that we ever bought are just a couple triplexes. This was actually in 2009. It's like, man, there was such a mental capacity lost, so consumed by these properties that we bought them wrong or poorly, paid too, even during then, paid too much. We just made a lot of mistakes, paid too much, and a lot of maintenance issues that weren't accounted for that we found later and all this stuff. But man, the mental capacity that it took from, I got married just before this as well. It took so much time out of even our marriage, right? Because I was having to run back and forth and always, worried about this property and oh my goodness. So I can completely relate to, you say EROI. I love that.
Emotional ROI. Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that for sure. Danny, what would you say though, right now, even with everything going on, but what would you say is the best source for you right now, meeting new investors and new partners?
For years, the best generating source is my clients. I mean, I try to make sure that every client that I work with is not just a happy client, he's an ambassador, right? Do they all act as ambassadors? No, but that's the main source. Plus, when someone comes to you with the recommendations, you're already at a more of the person who's approaching you is already feeling a little bit more comfortable because one or two of your friends. And funnily enough, there's so many social circles that are kind of closing on my clients. So I have clients, I have 4, 5, 6 friends that are working with you. So that's kind of, he's surrounded in a way, not even planned for it. That's obviously the best one, still the strongest one. I like using Meetup. I have multiple Meetup groups that helps kind of generate activity or information. I spent last week speaking in Silicon Valley, did 2 lectures in Silicon Valley, California, and then meetings. The one thing that for me is not really strong generating is I post a lot of comments and I get a lot of kind of rating my comments on bigger pockets. I was just thinking the other day, I don't say I'm super active, but I'm not active on bigger pockets. Not a single one ever translated into a lead. Some maybe it's a conversation once or twice. So that for me didn't work well so far. Also, Facebook groups, unfortunately, so many of the Facebook groups are 16,000, 20,000, 36,000 members, and it's all junk. I mean, I look at those Facebook groups like, I wish there was a little bit more content. So they're always good Facebook groups, but they're so rare to find that there's truly a conversation about, or community about real estate.
Yeah, you have to figure out what's the highest impact, right? And best use of your time. And man.
Exactly.
But on that thought, though, what are some of the most important metrics that you track? Could be personally or professionally.
For finding clients or
it could be anything that just the most important metrics to you. It could be how many times you get out of bed on time or your bench press number or the properties that you're looking at, anything.
I'm at the point that my metrics they're not measurable. What occupies me is how can I find better opportunities? How can I find better programs, improve the cash flow for my clients, improve the analysis, improve the investment? It's really hard for me to quantify them. I'm working on a new program now. So there's a lot of thinking. My eyes always like, okay, these are an interesting concept. There's a lot of people who were able to break down a certain investment concept. And I'm like, okay, I like this one. How can I learn from it? What can I benefit? How can I bring it back to simply do it and our clients to benefit from it? So it's kind of less KPI. My team KPI, I'm more strategic. I need the vision.
And how do you like to give back?
I give back to the community by telling people, listen, if you're in trouble, if you're having a hard time with your real estate, you're stuck with some situation, call me up. I'll try to at least walk you through, understand what's going on. I've never had a situation with someone who said, listen, Danny, I have a problem with a property manager, with a house, with an entity, so it's not a legal consultation. Or like, I remember a time when I always look at it, if someone is on the floor and they're in trouble, I reach out and I try to help if they want. And I don't remember a time someone called up and I was not able to try to connect them to someone, try to overcome some challenges, some problems. Sometimes you just need someone to tell you you're doing something right or talk to that person to start resolving things. So that's my passion, because I bring my real estate because when I was down, people were there to also, when I had going through some business challenges, people were there to hand out. But I always reached out and helped another person proactively, versus when I needed it, I was just realizing that people are now helping me. So that was also nice to see.
That is awesome. We wouldn't be where we're at now if it wasn't for guys like yourself who had been doing it longer and were willing to share and to help. It's so important and grateful for that. Danny, just grateful for your time today and being willing to share just about the market right now, your concerns or challenges and how you're looking at it, but how you're looking at it as a veteran and not maybe like some that are, hey, I'm not sure what to do right now. I'm going to sit out, whatever, and how you're preparing for that, even talking to, quality assets and thinking long-term from the beginning, being patient. So important to say the least. Danny, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
So my alter ego, aka web identity, is Simply Do It. Simply Do It. So if you put Simply Do It, or maybe Simply Do It with real estate or my name, you'll probably land on some sort of a social media page, website, anything of that sort. So the easiest way to remember my name on the web is Simply Do It. My last name is a bit more of a challenge to most people, or at least at first, so hard to remember. So Simply Do It. You go simplydoit.net, you'll find us. You go Simply Do It on Facebook, you'll find us. So all you need to remember is Simply Do It. Make it easy. Makes it easy.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.